Welcome back, Be Better Tribe. This is your host, Julian Alvarez. As you probably already know, this podcast is designed to reflect back on stories, lessons, and leadership journeys that I've experienced or individuals that I bring onto the podcast have experienced. And we share that with you so that you can walk away with something that is applicable that you can take into your daily life or make you smile, make you happy, whatever the case may be. Visit us at BeBetterTribe.com, where you can find the latest gear as well as the habit tracker that I created to help you as well as myself stay on task. And that's actually what the topic of this episode is going to be. As you already know from 3 to 4 of the episodes already out of the 30 plus episodes that I've recorded have been about Atomic Habits. And it is one of my favorite books, and it's one that I'll often go back to, especially when I'm having a hard time. So right now, this episode is going to be all about chapter 16, and it's focused on how to stick to good habits every day. And the reason I wanted to reread this particular section is because I felt like I was missing some habits. I felt like I didn't stay as consistent as I would have liked. And it happens, but I wanted to make sure that I dug into some material that was going to motivate me and get me back on track. And I have a habit tracker. I try to keep track of that, but life happens. And I think it's important for us to reflect back and, at least for me, to kind of re-engage the habits that I want to continuously do so that I can improve. One of the things that I'm trying to achieve, trying to motivate myself and stay disciplined in, is running a marathon later this year. Again, I tried to run a marathon last year. I put in little to no training, and that marathon absolutely kicked my ass. I was only able to run half of it. And it was a really slap in the face of like me as an individual, not sticking to routine, not getting ready, and ultimately thinking that I was better than I am. And so the focus is I got 4 more months to continue to get ready for that challenge. And the only way I'm going to be able to accomplish that is if I stay true to the habits that that I place for myself. And it's summer and a lot of things happen as a parent of 3, as a sales leader, as all of us are dealing with different things in our life. It is extremely difficult to stay on task, especially if you're moving, if you're going to different places, if you get knocked out of routine for any particular reason. It is really challenging to stay the course and be very diligent about our habits and what we're trying to set. And so I'm going to go through this chapter. It was something that I reread again, and it really resonated with me, and it has me motivated and excited to continue to take on challenges. And so chapter 16 of Atomic Habits is all about how to stick to good habits every day. And the chapter starts off with a story about an individual in Canada who was joining the sales team for a finance firm. And it was way back in 1993. And so the individual that joined the team placed 2 jars on his desk. And one jar was filled with 120 paper clips, and the other jar was empty. And how the story goes is the individual, every day after he made one sales call, would move one paper clip to the next empty jar. And after that, he would immediately get back on the phone. He would make that next dial and he'd move the additional paper clip. And what he learned is every day, if he continued to do that habit of 120 paper clips, it started to compound in terms of starting to get sales connections, starting to see results, starting to get sales. But once he started to get those sales, he didn't waver from that initial behavior. And so what we would call it is he didn't move on from that habit. And the reason why it was easy for him to continue to do those habits was because the jar was visible, it was on his desk, and it was consistent in terms of the behaviors that he did every day. And so whether you relate that back to trying to work out every day, trying to eat properly every day, trying to accomplish anything on a day in and day out basis, it's very important that you have those cues so that they're set up, they're ready to go. It's easy, it's digestible, and it's satisfying. And so I'll go ahead and go through this chapter. But ultimately, what happened was within 18 months, this individual was bringing in a ton of money for that firm. By the first year and a half of them being at that company, they were one of the top performing individuals. They made a ton of money and they started to be a top performer year in and year out. And it just shows that, although day 1, day 10, day 15 took 18 months to be the top performer, but the consistency of that behavior absolutely created that. And so what it talks about throughout this chapter is how to keep your habits on track. And when you think about keeping your habits on track, it's really focused on how are you tracking them? Are you pen and paper? Is it a computer? Sometimes it's individuals that are going to help you. Like if you have a workout buddy or if you have something that you're trying to accomplish with others. I know that, it would be easier for me to accomplish this marathon if I had someone that was trying to continue to call me and keep me accountable, but that's okay. I need to be able to do this on myself, but like, it's just giving you ideas of how to keep on track. And so when we think about a habit tracker, or we think about a journal or something to make sure you're taking notes, it really forces you to be methodical and thoughtful every day about tracking these habits. Because individuals like Benjamin Franklin, it's well known that in his early 20s, he had a small booklet that he would carry where he would list out goals that he would have, and then he would continue at the end of each day, check off those goals, which I think is a really awesome thing. He was an amazing inventor. He focused on continuing to be, he was always focusing on continuing to be creative and doing more. And I think it's great to connect that back to him tracking his work and tracking his habits on a daily basis. Another story that I absolutely love that's part of this book is Jerry Seinfeld Jerry Seinfeld, reportedly had a habit tracker where he would try to stick to writing a joke a day. And you could find that in The Comedian, but it's really cool that he focused on what he calls never breaking the chain. So he wanted to ensure that every single day he was working on his craft, and his mantra, don't break the chain, was to write or read off a joke a day. And again, one of the most famous individuals in the comedic realm has this daily habit where you might think someone of that stature never would have to do this. However, it's really great to see the highest performing individuals in their arena are the ones that are really passionate. They find consistency and they have mantras like don't break the chain, meaning every day you have that one step forward and you practice your craft and you continue to do it. So whether it's a sales professional that is the paper clips from one jar to the next, whether it's somebody like Jerry Seinfeld who has that don't break the chain mentality, and then Benjamin Franklin, who was consistently maniacal about writing the progress per day. I think it's extremely important that we reflect back on those top performers and we peel out and we take some of the learnings from them. And so what I'm walking away with is a couple different things and the benefits of habit tracking. And so the benefits of having a habit tracker. Number one, habit tracking becomes obvious. So when you're recording the habits that you want to achieve, it keeps you honest. It allows you to not have a distorted view of yourself, because a lot of the times we like to have unrealistic, or maybe the word isn't unrealistic, but we think we're better than we actually are. We think we act better than we are. Unfortunately, we tell somewhat little lies of like ourselves of like, oh, I was supposed to run 4 miles. I ran 2 miles. That's good enough, right? Or I ran 2 miles, but I was supposed to run 4, but I ran. That would be an example of like these little lies that we tell and we think we act better than we actually do. And so the measurement of the habit tracker and the measurement of the goal that you're looking to accomplish that day is really important because it's black and white and it allows you to have like a very obvious answer to whether you did it or not. So the number one benefit for, or excuse me, how to keep your habits on track. Benefit number one is habit tracking is obvious, and you make it obvious. And I just think it's really important that we don't lie to ourselves, and we have that habit tracker that keeps us on track. Benefit number two is habit tracking is actually really attractive. The effective form of motivation is progress. And so when we see stacks and stacks of accomplishments within our habits, it creates a sense um, of pride. It creates a sense of like progress, which is really important. Throughout this book, it talks about really challenging yourself and getting better each and every day, and what the habit tracker does, and making sure that you're on track. It allows you to see you stacking days over and over and over. And soon enough, you're going to start seeing those results. And so habit tracking is very attractive. And then at the end, the third benefit is habit tracking is extremely satisfying. I know for me, I'm a checklist type of person, and I love to have my checklist crossed off when I'm completing things. It really just creates a sense of accomplishment. I feel more grateful. I feel like my life is moving in the right direction. And so it's the times when I procrastinate and I don't habit track and I skip habits and I don't fulfill what I'm looking out to do, that I start to have this negative mindset, and like multiple days of missing habits starts to creep in. And so in summary, habit tracking creates a visual cue that can remind you to act, is inherently motivating because you see the progress you are making and don't want to lose it. And number three, it feels satisfying whenever you record another successful instance of your habit. So you just continue to see that progress. And if you do miss it, and this is where I am at today, and like kind of what I'm dealing with right now, is if you miss it, you need to have the ability to recover quickly when those habits break down. And what the book talks about is never missing twice. And the thing about it is you can create these really strong habits, but the moment that you let a bad habit or a mistake creep in, the more mistakes you have, the harder it will be to get back on track. So the first mistake never is the one that ruins it for you. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Missing once could be an accident. It could be something in life that threw you a curveball. For all those parents out here listening, it could be a sick kid. It could be anything that comes up there. But it is about trying to not miss habits twice, because then ultimately it'll create a brand new, like the wall to get back to your habits is continue to get built. And so with that said, it's this chapter is really meaningful for me. Again, I think, the purpose of this podcast is for me to reflect on things. And again, I love reading this type of stuff. I love re-engaging in this type of material, because if I'm trying to finish this marathon in later this year, I have to get back on these habits, and I have to be more disciplined in what I'm doing. And so um, as we're thinking about wrapping up this episode here, my thought as we wrap up is never miss twice. If you miss one day, try to get back on track as quickly as possible. So as we wrap up, Be Better Tribe, I'd love if you can comment, give those 5-star ratings. I'd really appreciate it on whatever podcasts, whatever you use to listen to podcasts. That would be fantastic. Always love any reviews or 5 stars. That would be fantastic. If you enjoyed this chapter, if some of this material resonated with you, encourage you to go to the BeBetterTribe.com website, grab the weekly tracker. But ultimately, as we wrap up, stay consistent, have fun, and always remember to be better.